Thank you, Mr Speaker. First of all, Labor is going to support this bill to select committee as long as we get some sort of referral motion correct, I believe. I wasn't in the House when that was talked about. But I just want to disagree there with Mr Peachy on one of the points he made about making sure that as many kids as possible get to the most excellent schools, because I think that the aim of the New Zealand education system should be for all schools to be excellent and all children, all students to have accessibility to excellent schools right in their own backyard. And it shouldn't just be the domain of those who are upwardly mobile to be able to attend an excellent school somewhere away from their own neighbourhood. Mr Speaker, in the 20 months that I've been a Member of Parliament, this is the third education-related legislation to come through the House. The first was the infamous national standards, and even if we were to believe the hype around the national standards that they are going to be the greatest thing to lift achievement in New Zealand, even if we disregard the Auckland Primary Principals Association's stance, the Southland Principals' support of the Auckland Primary Principals' stance, the Taitokoro Principals' their criticisms of national standards, the Parliamentary Library research paper that the Minister's quick to criticise, and the 37,000 petitioners who criticised the national standards. Even if we believe that the national standards were the best thing since sliced bread, you would expect that the second education bill that came to the House would be the second most important piece of legislation, and unfortunately the second piece of legislation talked about principals not having to police vet the contractor who goes down and fixes the light switch in the back prefab, and it talked about sharing information between the Teachers' Council and the Ministry of Education. And so that was a big letdown, that legislation, because it didn't actually address what this House should be about when it comes to talking about education, and that is how do we raise achievement as quickly as we can, as high as we can. So I was hoping that this education amendment bill would actually address that. I was hoping that it would address those issues, those strategies that are known, that are proven by research to raise achievement the most. This is another technical bill, Mr Speaker. It doesn't address the most important aspects of education. It doesn't look to improve how we're going to raise achievement. It doesn't address professional development and making sure that the interface between teachers and students is as good as it can be, because that is how we raise achievement. Mr Speaker, this bill, when the Minister was thinking, I guess, about what she wanted to do to raise achievement, she decided that, well, let's look at the limited attendance centres. Let's look at basically the places where parents who go to the shopping mall who need to get their hair cut or a manicure or do the groceries or fix the lawnmower, where they can leave the kids while they go off and do those things. Now, there's no way on earth that section of this bill is actually going to address achievement. It simply just makes things easier for parents to go about their daily business, where they can drop the kids off somewhere so that they can go off, do the groceries, get their hair cut or whatever. I have to say it's not about education. It is very good. I support the fact that parents can do that. It is a good idea, but it doesn't raise achievement. And this is what the government is focusing on, these technical things, and yet we're actually neglecting what it takes to raise achievement in schools. Because I asked the member over there who is interjecting, how many kids are going to learn to read and write and do arithmetic because the parents can drop them off at some daycare at a mall? And the member over there just goes to prove that they don't get education. They just do not understand what it takes to raise achievement. When we look at the secondary, tertiary programs, now I have a concern about this. I think, again, it's not a bad thing. We do support it going to select committee, but the secondary, tertiary partnerships, instead of just saying, oh, some kids are failing at secondary school, so let's see how we can move them off into some other area, we should be looking at what it is that is disengaging those students from the secondary school in the first place, and that is where professional development and resources, teachers should be resourced in order to work with those kids. They should be providing provided with the support so that they can be excellent. And it's our responsibility as legislators to actually provide the conditions where those excellent teachers can weave their magic for the kids. But just simply saying, oh, they've got to fourth form, this child is a hard-to-teach student, well, maybe we can just push them off to some technical studies at tertiary. Now, we all know that some kids may be better at technical stuff, but my fear is for those kids who, for whatever reason, are going to be pushed off and their academic abilities aren't going to be stretched simply because they're hard to teach kids. And if we take the instance of gifted education, and let me tell you, gifted education is just so misunderstood, in particular in this house, because there are a number of kids who present themselves as being not particularly academic when in fact they are gifted. In fact, schools don't have the resources, the capability, the technology to actually test for true giftedness, and so these gifted kids are actually sitting in classrooms, bored, disengaged, and what happens is the teacher actually believes that they're not necessarily, they're not very easy to teach, so maybe they could work better with their hands and go off to some technical college. Now, my son is 11 years of age, he's in year 7. He is writing in level 5 of the curriculum, which is very, very high. My son is very, very bright, exceptionally bright, but he's not gifted. And there's a lot of parents around who think that their kids are gifted when they're actually just bright. The gifted kids in New Zealand are not being recognised. They may be able to sit for days on end and build the Eiffel Tower out of matchsticks, or they may be able to build a Porsche out of lawnmower parts, but when it comes to writing a couple of sentences, they actually may not be able to do that particularly well in writing that's actually very legible, and so the teacher thinks they have learning difficulties and thinks, oh, I'll just encourage them to do something with their hands, go to the technical college, the techs, so they can do something with their hands. And I'm scared that we're going to have gifted kids who are academically bright, who are educationally very, very capable, who are just going to be pushed to the side. I'm also worried that Māori kids who may be difficult to teach actually get encouraged to move off to technical colleges and technical schools and actually not really fulfil their true academic capabilities, their academic potential. I also have concerns that children or students from rural areas are going to be disadvantaged because even if they do actually really want to go to these tertiary programs, that they're not actually available for them in the areas. Because when I think of where I live in Kaitaia, there's very, very few, in fact there's no opportunities for kids to go off to North Tech and in Whangarei and do some part of their studies there. So, Mr. Speaker, Labour does support this bill going to Select Committee. There are a number of parts to it that need further discussion, and I take my colleague Trevor Mallard's points about the part of the bill where boards of trustees members and former students, old boys and old girls, can send their kids to a school, and perhaps there's the opportunity for them to jump over other people who actually live in the school zone. I think that these anomalies need to be sorted out. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House. Kia ora.